Okay, to our sensory experiments to unlearn patriarchy. Let's go. So these experiments are an invitation, as always, to become conscious about how patriarchal conditioning lives within us, in the body, the breath, our habits of thought, and our relationships. So we're not blaming, we're orienting towards compassion, integration, and evolution, hopefully. You can sprinkle them throughout your month. You can do one now as you have a quick glance through, see what feels good for you, or just keep them in mind. Scan through and keep these ideas and practices and experiments in mind for whenever. Yes, yes. Firstly, the family constellation reflection. You might like to reflect on the male and female figures who shaped you. Consider also gender expansive or non-binary people who influenced your way of being and thinking. First of all, you just sketch or list your key influences as you were growing up. Parents, siblings, teachers, mentors, or cultural icons. And then you'll note which qualities felt nurturing or restrictive, liberating or fearful, or just go into whatever terms or senses come up when you think about these key figures. And then finally, you'll ask which patterns you've inherited, which you've moved beyond or evolved beyond, and which may still be around and lingering, but that you'd like to transform or be mindful of. Within this practice, we're letting awareness soften the family conditioning, our early conditioning, into conscious choice. We're shining light so that what is unconscious will become conscious. Okay, another practice is called the inner father and the inner mother. This in Jungian psychology is like doing what they call shadow work. So it's similar to the first, but a little bit more focused, and it's archetypal. So again, we're not talking about necessarily gender or actual role models. They're archetypal. So you could inherit this from your family, from culture, from epigenetics. We have within our genes memories. So this can be stretching back for who knows. So we would sit quietly and just first sense the inner father as an archetype. How this presents within us. Where does the voice live? Maybe you could find it in the body. How does it sound? What are the main themes that come across? Then you would move to the inner mother, where and how does this presence arise within you through sensations, images, tones, or language. You can then observe them together and observe their harmonies and their tensions, their gifts, and perhaps their distortions, letting them come into dialogue and just see how they shape your inner world. Again, if there are aspects of the inner father and inner mother that feel no longer useful for you, you might like to journal or just run through in your mind ways to speak back to, for example, language that you no longer want to have in your life, or a tone or an image. Yes. Okay, another experiment you can do, which comes from Ayurveda, pranayama, yoga, breathwork for balance. It's a solar and lunar NADI practice. We're going to use NADI sadhana, or alternate nostril breathing, to harmonize Pingala, which is the NADI or energy channel, which is running the solar and active part of the brain and the body, and Ida, which is the lunar and receptive part. The breath, and you can look up all the science, it absolutely controls a lot of the body's systems as well as the left and right hemispheres of the brain. When we do this alternate nostril breathing, it can really have a big effect on not just the body but the mind. I've put a link to a full practice, but basically you're going to just breathe alternatively through the left or right nostril. So breathing in through the left as you block the right, and then you block the left and breathe out through the right. Then breathe in through the right and breathe out through the left. So while you're doing that, you keep the body relaxed, and as you're going through balancing these two energy channels, Once you feel into that space of balance, you might like to just contemplate where you feel like you're overdeveloped on the Pingala side, solar and active, over-efforting or controlling, or undernourished maybe on the Ida side, the lunar receptive, perhaps collapsing or people-pleasing. Just feel into those two energies, whether you feel generally balanced or if there's anything awry. So in this practice, we're letting the breath really restore inner equilibrium, even if you just go with the breath every now and then. Let the analyzing be. It's a beautiful practice. Our next breath practice to work on the body and the mind is a gentle breath. So in Ayurveda, this system of life and living from India, Pitta, or fire, governs will, ambition, and aggression, which can be great qualities, but they can also be over-amplified in patriarchal cultures. Here we're going to inhale compassion into strength, and we're going to exhale domination into release. You might like to just place one hand on the solar plexus, on the center, and one on the heart. To begin, you would inhale into both areas. We just balance will with compassion. And as you exhale, you can let a sigh release through the mouth and just release any heat or control in the body. It's a really instant and affecting practice. If you don't feel like doing the analyzing and thinking, go for these breath practices and they can do the job for you. Our next experiment is around sound, the sense of sound. So here we're listening for authority. It's a soundscape awareness. You would spend the day tuning into voices around you in the media, in the workplace, in public spaces, in the home. And just notice whose tone dominates or interrupts or explains. Sense how your body responds to different timbres and rhythms of power. And you can invite softness, curiosity, and equality into the listening. You may find you react, but allowing this softness to be there, we can then respond in a way which feels appropriate rather than perhaps jumping into the anger control version if we do find people are dominating, interrupting, and explaining. I'm working on that one. Okay, another experiment you might like to do is a mainstream media fast, a detox from the established narratives. So take one day or a week without consuming mainstream news, film, or adverts. Instead, engage with women, queer or indigenous storytellers, or you might know or have a particularly, what's the right word, balanced news source, and you would only listen to that for the week. See how your nervous system responds. You can journal the difference between the pace, the tone, the empathy that's shown through these different sources of information. Yeah. Okay, the next experiment is around spatial awareness, proprioception, and power and movement. In space and in conversation, notice the body, your own and others. So who takes space? Even walking down the street, something I notice all the time. Certain people, mainly men, honestly, will take up a lot of space and they'll expect you to move out the way. So I'm always curious as I'm walking towards someone if they're going to step back or if they're going to expect me to step back. It's a fascinating experiment. Who takes space? Who yields? You can also experiment as you're talking with someone with subtle postural changes. So you'll notice some people really ground through the feet and also puff the chest. In Kalaripayat, we're always taught, this is the martial art I do from India, not to present like this, but to present like this. A lot of our practices round the shoulders and bring the energy into the body, because this stance we all know about is a definite patriarchal presentation of the body. So if we soften the chest, that creates a whole other vibe. So just observing bodies, your own, others, how you might shift relational dynamics through the body, through space. And lastly, the experiment is balancing doing and being. So tracking our day into 2 columns. When are we producing, directing, achieving? When are we resting, listening, receiving this solar, lunar energy in our own life? Noticing which we might value more, if either. And ending the day with 3 breaths, just honoring both modes equally. So within our own lives, allowing this balance of doing and being, active and receptive. Okay, friends, good luck out there. May the gentle force be with you.